The Marvels. The Marvels has just come out into theaters this past weekend. There's been a lot of kind of polarizing reactions to it. Some people love it, some people hate it, some people think it's just okay. I kind of fall in the middle. I think it's just kind of meh, kind of okay. I do have a full review up if you want to check that out. But with the numbers coming out for the Marvels, people were wondering, how's this going to do? How's it looking? Because the projections for this were not looking great. I believe the first projections came out for this, and they were looking at it making a 50 million to 60 million opening domestic weekend on a $275 million budget for this movie, which is insane. Definitely has to do with reshoots, but insane that it's that high of a budget. So the movie's now come out. And it turns out the projections were wrong. It didn't make 50 million. It didn't make 60 million. Made 47. It made 47 million on its opening weekend. This comes to us first from Variety. And they say, Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe is no longer a bulletproof box office franchise. It's truly the end of an era, guys. That much is clear after the Marvels misfired with a $47 million in its opening weekend to land the worst debut in MCU history. Initially tracking was closer to $75 million to $80 million, but those projections shrank dramatically in recent weeks to $60 million to $65 million. With bad buzz and actors like Brie Larson unable to promote the film due to the SAG strike, the Marvels didn't even match those disappointing estimates. So there you have it. The Marvels is now the lowest opening that an MCU movie has ever had. Even Quantumania, $106 million. Before this, Incredible Hulk was the lowest at $55 million, followed by Ant-Man at $57 million. So this is a blow. This is a big blow for Marvel, and also a big blow for their reputation, because they were known as like blockbuster bulletproof. They were juggernauts at the theater. If you had a Marvel movie playing and you were on the same day, oh, watch out, you better move, because Marvel's making a $200 million that weekend. So the question now is, what happened? What's going on? Where's the fans? MCU fans? Why didn't you go to the Marvels? Hello. I do have thoughts. I do have thoughts on why the box office is not doing great for the Marvels. So let's talk about some of those, shall we? And again, I'm no expert. I'm not a box office analyst. I'm not working in Hollywood. I'm sitting in my spare bedroom somewhere in Canada, undisclosed location. So, you know, this is just me kind of looking at what I see online, observing what I hear in life, and just kind of applying that to, why aren't people excited about the Marvels or Marvel in general anymore? So I'll throw this one out. Captain Marvel was 4 years ago. And I'm not saying that, a sequel that came out 4 years after the first movie can't do well. Like, no, we've seen plenty of examples of that. I mean, Doctor Strange came out in 2016. Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness came out in 2022. That's a big gap, and that movie almost made $1 billion. But I think with Captain Marvel coming out 4 years ago, that was a different time as well, because first of all, Captain Marvel came out in between Infinity War and Endgame. And I'm not saying that Infinity War and Endgame are the reasons that Captain Marvel made $1 billion. I'm not saying that. But I will say it helped. And I will say that it helped that Captain Marvel came out during the big peak of the MCU. Everyone was excited about Infinity War, especially after Infinity War. Everyone was excited about the MCU. Everyone was trying to get little glimpses of what they could get from Endgame. And they had, you know, friends that they were pulling along to come see these movies with them and to go see Captain Marvel. And then, you know, pandemic hit and everything's changed audience-wise after the pandemic. So I definitely think the fact that Captain Marvel came out 4 years ago, it came out at a time when the superhero movies were really booming. And you know what? Also, Captain Marvel was not the most beloved of the MCU. I'll also say that, because, like, even for me who loves the MCU, I don't go back and rewatch that movie very often. So I don't think Captain Marvel is a movie that's stuck in the pop culture zeitgeist. I don't think people really latched on to the character as much as Marvel wanted them to. Her movie did really well. I'm sure that had the benefit of the MCU hype of the time, but that hype is gone now, and I don't think the fact that this was just Captain Marvel 2 was enough to carry this movie. With that, this movie is a sequel to a movie from 4 years ago, as well as a sequel to 2 spin-off shows. And that's just a lot for people to kind of take in, especially at this moment of time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where you have Disney Plus, where you have all these shows coming out one after the other, boom after boom after boom on Disney Plus. Not even the hardcore fans can keep up with everything anymore going on in the MCU. I have friends that have grown up with me in the MCU. We have grown up together with this thing, and they were hardcore like me. We speculated what's going to happen in Infinity War. They dusted. How are they going to get him back? How are they going to get him in Endgame? Let's go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. Let's go see Captain Marvel. I had buddies. I had friends that did that. They've all dropped off. I'm like the last man standing. They can't keep up with the shows. They can't keep up with what's going on. And because they know that everything in the MCU eventually is interconnected and bleeds into one another, they see the shows as the same as they saw the movies. You have to see the movies to keep the story going, and they've fallen behind on the shows, so they weren't going to go and see the movies. And that happened with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and it's happening with the Marvels. And further on with that note, Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel is the least watched series that Disney Plus has ever done, and then she pops up in this trailer. And people don't know who she is. People don't know who Monica Rambeau is. People don't know who Ms. Marvel is. And when you see them pop up in the trailer, because we have Disney Plus, because we have people talking about Disney Plus shows, people who aren't even aware of these characters, they know someone most likely, or have just heard in general that they have a show on Disney Plus that they didn't watch. WandaVision, I didn't get into WandaVision. I watched the first 3 episodes. It was a black and white TV show from the 50s. I stopped watching that thing. Oh, this Monica Rambeau character is from the end of WandaVision. I never finished WandaVision. I'm not going to understand that. Oh, this character is from Ms. Marvel on Disney Plus. I didn't watch that one. It didn't look interesting to me. I thought it was like a kid's show, so I didn't watch that one. So I think that's a big factor as well. And I mean, I'm hoping that Ms. Marvel's numbers go up after the Marvels for people who did go to see it, because I really liked Ms. Marvel. But we have to face the fact that not everyone watched it and not everyone cared about it. Also, this can't be ignored. They had a very poor and desperate marketing. Nothing in this marketing campaign got many people excited. Even myself. You know, I love the MCU. I crave this stuff. I look forward to it when it comes out in theaters. And I really just went to go see the Marvels because I like Marvel. The trailers for this weren't that fascinating. It was mostly highlighting just them switching places. And then it was like, okay, but what else is there to this story? I don't even know who these two characters are. So why are they switching places with Captain Marvel? What's even going on? I don't even think they showed the villain in the first 2 trailers, or at least the villain I don't think had any lines. And then they got desperate by the end, guys. I mean, that final trailer that they put out before the movie came out, that whole trailer is bullcrap. And I feel like people could see through the lies of that trailer, as well as people that came out of the movie were like, hey, by the way, that movie has nothing to do with Thanos or anything that was going on in that final trailer. So I think this was probably the weakest and poorest marketing campaign that Marvel has ever done for a movie, and I think it hurt the box office. And also, I do want to take pity, and I do have to acknowledge that there was an actor strike. I mean, there was an actor strike, and you can't ignore that there was an actor strike, because, you know, trailers come out and TV spots come out, and yeah, people see them, but where is most of Gen Z? Huh? Where are most of the youngers that this movie is trying to appeal to? They're on TikTok. They're here. They're there. They're watching these shorts on YouTube. And what pops up? Oh, clips from Tonight's Show that have Brie Larson and Iman Vellani and Teyonah Parris on them. Oh, they're funny. They're cracking jokes. Oh, they got the Marvels coming out. They couldn't do that. The actor strike didn't allow any of the actors to promote this. They didn't get to go on any late night shows. They didn't get to go on any talk shows that older people might have been watching late at night. Oh, a new Marvel movie's coming out with these 3 ladies. Oh, that seems kind of fun. No, they didn't get to have the clip outs that went on social media for the youngers. So yeah, with a poor marketing campaign and the actor strike, I think that really hurt this movie. But also, I want to throw this out there as well. Marvel is becoming like the comics in the worst way. And when I say that the MCU is becoming like the comics in the worst way, here's what I mean. I'm a movie guy. I love movies. And my introduction to superheroes and superhero comic book lore and all that stuff is through movies. I didn't get into comics. I don't really own many comic books. I've read some Spider-Man comics, but that's about it. And the ones that I have read, and one of the reasons why I don't get into comics is because you never know where to start, and I always feel like I've missed something. Because in the comics, at least maybe in the older comics that I was reading, you would read I would read Spider-Man, and all of a sudden, hey, Daredevil's in this comic book as well. Oh, and Daredevil says to Spider-Man, don't you remember that time back in Wisconsin? And then at the very bottom corner of the page, it says, please read issue number 167 of Daredevil's Fantastic Adventures to see this adventure, to see this story play out. You know, there's always like that little note of like, go here to understand what these guys are talking about. And when I was watching the Marvels, there was many times where I was like, if a card popped up right now and told me where to go to understand this reference, I would believe it 100%, because this movie, especially the Marvels with Miss Marvel and Monica Rambeau in there are times in this movie where I've watched Miss Marvel, I've watched WandaVision. There are things that they say and that they allude to that I can't even picture what it would be like not to have watched the show and be watching this movie as a newcomer and understand what was happening. Like, there are references. Monica Rambeau talks to Captain Marvel and says, oh, you know, I got my powers because I walked through a hex of a witch lady. And it's like this weird, out of nowhere line. And I just expected this little card to come up at the bottom and be like, to see this story, please watch WandaVision episode 6 on Disney Plus. Like when Miss Marvel, she's talking about her bangle and she's like, oh yeah, my bangle, it traveled me through time and space once. And I'm sitting there like, well, I know what that means, but my brother who's never watched Miss Marvel, I doubt he knows what she's referencing. I just expect a little card to come up and be like, to understand this story, please go watch Miss Marvel episode 5 on Disney Plus. Like, they're just becoming like the comics in that way, and you can't be like that with movies. You can't be like that with audience members. You can't expect them to understand everything from shows that you have on Disney Plus, on what I like to call Marvel DLC nowadays. So I would definitely throw out there, I think that Marvel's becoming like their comic books in the worst way. And also, lastly, word of mouth. And not just word of mouth for this movie, because this movie did not have fantastic word of mouth. This movie did not have people coming out, a large majority of people coming out raving about this movie. A lot of people just came out saying, it's fun, I had a decent time. That's not really enough to sell someone to spend $20, or even, heck, to spend $100 to take their entire family to go watch the Marvels on a Saturday afternoon, when they also know it's just going to come out on Disney Plus anyways in a couple months. But also, the word of mouth of the MCU has not been great right now. The word of mouth of the MCU is not where it was back in 2019 when even Captain Marvel came out. People are talking all the time, oh, Marvel's quality has gone down. It's quantity over quality. And these aren't even just the casual moviegoers. These are the hardcore comic book movie fans. You know, the ones that Marvel feels they already have in their pocket. They're not the ones that they really need to market to. They need to talk to the casual moviegoer. They need to get the casual audience member in the seats. And if you've got your already hardcore comic book movie fans who are going to show up anyways saying it's quantity over quantity or quantity over quality, I don't know. It feels like they've dipped. It's not as good as it used to be. You don't think the casual moviegoer hears that? You don't think the casual moviegoer feels that way? And like, kind of going back to the marketing, the Marvels didn't really do much in their marketing campaign to make that feel otherwise. And then when the initial reactions and reviews started coming out, it was very middling. It wasn't very optimistic, I would say that, about the marketing. So based off what I've heard and based off what I've seen, those would be some of the reasons why I think the Marvels and the Marvel Cinematic Universe in general might not be doing as well as it used to do. Well, thank you very much for checking out this clip from our live show that we do every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time called Zach Milne Talks Live. If you like talking movies, if you like talking movie news, why don't you consider hitting that subscribe button before you leave? We do that on this channel all the time. But if you still need some time before you fully commit, you can check out the full video this clip is from right here, and you can check out another video over here. The subscribe button's right here.